All right, welcome to the Pitch Stack, episode 13. That's episode 14 in hotel episodes. Matt, how are you doing this week?
We're doing good. We finally have
excellent.
all the Uprising spoilers. So
we do.
This is the theory crafting week.
Oh, 100%. It is theory crafting week. And my theory is that all these cards suck and we can just keep playing with the old cards. That's not true. A lot of these cards are really good. Some of them especially good. I'm excited for them. But before we get into it, we have our weekly daggering.
Yes, we do. And it's payback time.
Yeah, this time I will be getting stabbed live on air.
Though
I can't just be the guy with all the answers.
Though I do predict it won't be as troublesome as our last question.
That's fair. We tightened it up. We workshopped it a little bit. All right, Matt, what do you have for me this week?
So, active player plays an imposing visage. Guardian action says search your deck for an aura card, cost X or less. Put it into the arena, then shuffle. Go again. So, there's a new card, actually, that this rules question references, and that card's Fog Down. It's a generic non-attack action aura card, and it costs 3. So if we're going to search for this with Imposing Visage, it would cost us 3 more mana. So we pay 6 resources, and we search out a Fog Down. Fog Down says, non-attack action cards lose and can't gain Go Again. At the beginning of your action phase, destroy Fog Down. So we cast an Imposing Visage, searching for a Fog Down. An Imposing Visage has Go Again. Do we get Go Again or do we not get Go Again?
Oh, that's interesting. So I'm going to say that Fog Down enters the arena as part of Imposing Visage resolving. And because Go Again is checked in the link step, even though these are non-attack actions, I would imagine Go Again is checked very last. So we do lose it, and we end up paying 6 mana just to throw a Fog Down into effect and lose Go Again.
I believe that's correct. I don't know if it's correct, but I believe it's correct because I heard it somewhere. But I am inclined to believe that that's true.
I know for a fact, like I do have to like sit down and reread the comp rules, but I do know for a fact that Go Again is the very last thing checked for attack actions, because like if it's on the chain, you have chain link steps with attack actions. So it would make a lot of sense to me for non-attack actions, even though they're not linked together in the chain, to check in a very similar way. So that is my guess. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does resolve that way.
Nice. Yeah, I think that makes sense. That makes sense to me.
Kind of a funky interaction, though, because this seems kind of like the kind of card you would want to search for, right? And this also seems like a kind of card you would want to run in an Aura-style Guardian deck, perhaps, if you're looking to control your opponent's turn.
It's also weird, though, too, right? Because there are not... I mean, is that the only generic aura? Like, off the top of my head, I can't really think of any other ones.
Oh, there are plenty of generic auras.
Well, that's what happens when you don't read card types. And you just
there's a new one, Sigil of Protection. I mean, you have the one from Arcane Rising. What's the name? Is it it's the one that prevents damage, Enchanting Melody. And you also
I knew there was one in my bulk box.
The super from Arcane Rising, that's a super sleeper card that turns off like blocking and pitching if you name a card. Chains of Eminence.
I literally have one of those in my hand as we speak.
Oh yeah, it's a little sleeper card right there, fellas. If
it is, you can tutor it for just 3.
Yeah. Oh, just in general, I'm not particularly expecting a Guardian to use his Visage to tutor for that, but I think it might be pretty good in decks that care about non-attack actions being played.
Yeah, that's fair. I actually have a foil Chains of Eminence in my hand.
Yeah.
That's 23 cents.
Yep. Buy it now, guys. This is not this is not a financial advice, but just buy like 100 copies.
Buy 1,000. It's the new Aetherize. Well, Matt, that was a very nice daily dagger. And actually, yeah, I did just look it up real quick. That is confirmed that you do in fact lose Go Again.
Hell yeah.
With Bogged Down. So nice daggering.
But you counter.
What do you say? It's the counter. Super annoying question. You're playing you're playing Fab Arena. You have Illusionist Guardian. You pitch to
go. No, stop. I honestly believe, like, you know, we're gonna get to it one day. We will, I promise. It just, that's the future of like these insane interactions, is crossing the streams that were never meant to be crossed. Guardian and Illusionist
that were never meant to be crossed.
Coming to a theater near you.
The intro.
Yes, so the intro. That's what's coming.
You're listening to the Pitch Stack Podcast.
All right, and we're back from the intro. Now, before we get into the theory crafting, the spoilers, the magical Christmas land that exists in all of our hearts before the real metagame is revealed, let's take a look at the old metagame here as ProQuest season is officially over. That's right. You're finally free.
No Matt, more Starvo or Shane.
No more Starvo. Starvo's dead. He's got to go back to stopping the show. And Shane has been banished. So
that was actually great. Totally unplanned. I don't know if you had planned to say that. That was amazing, though.
No, yeah. Sometimes, you know, it's all just jazz, man. It's all just jazz. I don't know. So Matt, it's over. What do you think if you had to wrap up this ProQuest season? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Misery. For me as a Viscerai player, but no, I think that Starvo had a good showing. He came, he saw, and he left.
He came, and he saw, he dominated.
I think Shane has to retire. He's been an oldie of the game for a while. It's actually been about a year, I'd say. His reign lasted, you know, as far as from when he was released to when he got released, he got all his Living Legend points, exactly a year, about a little over. But as far as he was competitively viable, last RTN season was like the big competitive scene in which he made his nasty debut, sporting
Absolutely.
Seeds of Agonies. But that was a little under a year ago when I started playing the game. And now Shane has finally, like you said, has been banished. And we will see him in the future whenever Living Legend format comes out. But yeah, the two of those heroes made an insane showing this ProQuest season. Making
Absolutely.
over 50% of the entire metagame, I think, combined. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Like, even just if you go by winning numbers, like, they crushed it. They were like nearly 60%.
Yeah, it's pretty close to that. I mean, Prism was the third most popular deck, and she just really wasn't even there. Let's see if we look at the numbers, and this is just from the last week alone. So this is the last week when people were trying out new stuff, but them combined is a little bit less than 35%, which is crazy though, considering we have 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not going to count this. Roughly 15 heroes in the meta. So
yeah,
that's nuts. Just two of them.
Exactly. And followed, Prism is a lot closer in her representation to Briar than she is to the next runner up, which would be Shane.
Yeah.
Actually, it's very close. Actually, she's very smack dab in between Briar and Shane's representation.
Which I guess makes sense. Briar nerfed extremely hard, but was still a little bit relevant. But I think going into this metagame, there were absolutely 3 tier 1 decks, and then 1 or 2 1.5 decks. I think that's just how it shook 100%. Out. Absolutely. So I don't know. I'm glad it's over. I feel like I have played against Starvo more times than I've played against any other deck in any other trading card game I've ever played in my life.
Actually, I feel like I personally, it feels that way for you because you play Prism, but I've played more against Prism than I have Starvo or any other hero. And I think that just says something about Prism players being super committed to Prism.
Yeah, I mean, we like golden books, it's those
definitely
those are
the golden locks. I mean, books.
Exactly. So
I'm sorry. The win conversion for these heroes actually is very
it was ridiculous.
I've seen that. Is that Starvo actually outdid Shane in the win conversion.
Yeah, I mean, what Starvo was at 35% win conversion, and then I guess that was more the winning metagame. But Starvo, 11.7? So you had a 1 in 8 chance of winning your ProQuest if you showed up with Starvo.
Yeah, exactly. And a nearly 1 in 8 chance. Nearly 1 in 8 chance. A little bit less than that for Shane.
Yeah, that's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, Prism was at 6.61, and I think it's interesting to me to see Briar at near Prism levels, and then Bravo Showstopper at a extremely high win conversion percentage. But I think that's also because it's such a small sample size of people that showed up with Stopvo, which is what I'm going to start calling him.
Stopvo. Stop the Vo.
Exactly.
But it's ProQuest was interesting. Too much Starvo, too much Prism, too much Shane. Hopefully that all stops soon. We know that those two are leaving, but Prism is going to be still around, at least as far as Pro Tour Lille goes. But if she manages to still be a threat in the metagame for that Pro Tour, I suspect that she will be going away.
Yeah, I agree. Especially, I mean, looking at these spoilers, it looks to me like Prism is going nowhere.
Not
except
at all.
For the Hall of Legends.
Yeah, she actually got a massive buff. Some people have had mixed feelings about some of the cards spoiled here. It's only solidified my thoughts of how strong Prism is slated to be right now.
Yeah, so so like as somebody that reviles Prism is on the end of a lot of terrible Prism effects. What do you think about like these upgrades? I mean, I think Ghostly Touch is interesting. I don't necessarily think it's better than or at least at this moment, I don't think it's necessarily better than the like having the wild card slot for Prism's hands. But
I think Ghostly Touch is not going to come in every matchup, but I also think that it's going to be there most of the time. Because the thing is, the versatility of that slot used to exist there for really dealing with Shane, like the arcane damage and Viscerai, and the Starvo blocking, right? But now neither of those things are a problem. Viscerai may continue to try to push the fringes of the meta occasionally, and that's going to be true, at least locally, as far as I'm breathing air.
Yeah.
I may try to dabble a little bit in Icelander and Fae, but where my heart belongs. But I think Ghostly Touch is like an insane, like late game, like just value engine. It's going to be very difficult to actually break Ghostly Touch as far as Phantasm goes, because we're talking about late game, and hopefully Prism has a passing Mirage in play, and then at that point it's like you lead every turn with this Ghostly Touch.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You just come through with say this thing's got like 6 ghost counters or whatever on it. You remove a ghost counter, come in through for 5, go again. for a blue pitch, right? And it's a repeatable effect. But also, mind you, this has to be in play when you're going to be going up against a deck with a lot of Phantasm Poppers. So that's my only quarrel with the card, is that this is going to be where you think you need to sort of stash up an advantage against the decks that have poppers, but also where you don't need a 2-block arm slot. And I don't know exactly what matchup that is going to be. So I'm actually more convinced this is a lot more of a sideboard card now that I've been reading it and talking about it more.
Yeah, it's interesting. It sits in a really bizarre spot. As a Prism player, though, looking at the new Prism spoilers, Illusionist spoilers, rather, I've got to say that the card I am most excited about coming into Uprising is Semblance. I think card is so sneakily good. There's nothing like, and so, okay, so one of the reasons, so let me talk about this Semblance card a little bit, because on the whole, it doesn't look as good as it is in practicality. You're looking at a blue pitch. It costs 3 resources for an Illusionist instant, and what it does is it negates all Phantasm triggered effects of target Illusionist attack you control. The attack loses and can't gain Phantasm. Now, where this card is amazing is once your opponent is convinced they have popped Phantasm, it ends up being that they very severely underblocked, and now you can get your on-hit effects.
Yes. Specifically with Erudition.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah,
this is why Prism's living legend.
Well, what's funny is that she was always capable of something like that before, with the Crown of Reflections.
That is true.
I don't know if anyone has made many of those plays before, but you can sneak in a little passing Mirage in response to Phantasm triggers.
That's true. You have to, it does specifically only affect your first attack, regardless of like which one it sees as your first attack.
Yes, correct.
It looks back in time at the first attack. So I think, like, obviously that's a thing you can do, right? You pay 1 resource, you sacrifice an aura you control, you bring in Passing Mirage. But I feel like this has significantly less conditions to fill, where you just need to have 3 resources on this card in hand.
Yeah,
and I think that's what makes it so good.
Not hard. I mean, usually you're only pitching 1 yellow to play the Erudition or whatever Herald you're playing, and then you have two other cards in hand, or 3 if you played a card out of Arsenal. Usually 2 other cards in hand, and then you go ahead and pitch and play that Semblance, and then you get a hit and refill your hand.
Oh, it's so gross. And you're already playing so many blue auras. Like, I think this is a card in Prism that anytime you draw it, you Arsenal it immediately.
Yeah, Arsenal's a good spot for it. But I do caution the blue pitch of it, so it's going to have to find a slot in the deck without eating up your yellows.
Yeah, I think it ends up taking, so this is going to sound like absolute heresy, but I think you end up dropping Shimmers of Silver for this.
I wouldn't say that's heresy, but that makes sense to me, because I'd like to guess where you're going with this, and that's the pivoting from your aura.
No,
yes, between your aura and the Herald game plan.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Is like you're still playing Prism in your traditional way, but I think because you are getting rid of Phantasm, not only are you getting through the chip damage you would with a Shimmer of Silver, which usually ends up netting you 2-3 extra damage over the course of it existing at the cost of your action point. This, I think, ends up netting you a little bit more damage. It ends up netting you probably roughly the same amount of damage, with the difference being that it grants you an on-hit effect. So it's pretty interesting.
Absolutely. And, the rest of the legendaries in the set are pretty strong, but I feel like there's a bit of a pattern, in my opinion, to the abilities and the viability of them. I think some of them represent a slot that doesn't exist for that class yet, right? As far as the rarity, but also in that they're very like conditional, like sideboard pieces, right? And something I did realize is that I realized a couple days ago is that it could almost be said that it's kind of like expected. So like I don't take like too much credit for guessing this as well, but I did guess actually pretty accurately which legendary slots were missing and where they would go for each class.
Yeah, absolutely.
In our last podcast, the last episode, I said that Illusionist definitely needs hands, and more than likely will get hands over anything else. And that Ninja probably will get a new set of arms as well to replace breaking scales. And that's exactly what happened. Tiger Stripe Shuko is actually what we got for Ninja. And it's pretty sick.
And it's interesting too, because I was also correct. Is that they did mirror the commons, common armor. So that's interesting. I wonder if that's a pattern we are going to see from here on out.
Yeah, that's probably likely to be the case. And also, I don't think they overlap with the generics either. Or if they do, there's at least other generics in the rest of the slots, so that you can have your common equipment and then the generics in the other slots.
Yeah.
But that's interesting that you point that out.
I guess I wonder if that's like to have a budget option, so it's not like this game's expensive, which is what happens. I don't know. I dig it though. So, all right, so that's one specific card I'm looking at heroes that. So I guess like the other thing I've been looking at, right, is heroes that could get better. Before we really dig into like Dramai, Fae, and Icelander
for sure.
So one other card really just looking at stuff stuck out at me, and I think this would have been really great for 3 heroes, but it's only good for 2 currently, and that is Sift. I feel like Sift is a phenomenal card. I know in the pre-show we were talking about it. You mentioned it to me. Yeah. This card is really, 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 really good.
I had like a total genuine reaction because I hadn't seen the card literally until like 30 minutes ago. And I read it. I'm like, no fucking way. And I'm like, blue is the best. Yeah. Like, okay, so non-attack action with Gogan, blocks for 3, is a blue, and lets you filter 2 cards for 2 new cards. What? Cost 0.
It's
the
ridiculous.
Red one lets you do your whole hand. Who cares? Some card in your hand has to be decent, right? And then the other one can just be pitch. So if you have a bricked hand, Sift out of your arsenal, change those cards, go again. And if you don't need to do that and it's in your hand, it blocks for 3. Also, this pitches for 3. This card's amazing.
Yeah. It's really good.
Now the question, where does it get played? I think mostly the Rune Blades, because they care about the non-attack action.
Yeah.
We're not talking about Shane,
because it goes straight into the Rune Blades.
Yeah,
I think
Shane's
that's 100% where we go it.
But Briar and Viserai are definitely going to find some homes to try to test out Sift. Maybe more Briar. Viserai really, really cares that you play cards that are purple. He doesn't like the gold cards that much. But yeah, Briar for sure is going to see some Sift playing.
Oh, 100%. That's if Briar's still viable with all these Frostbite tokens.
Well, it's going to be outright. I think she's at least going to be playable.
Yeah, that's true.
That's yet to be seen. But I don't think it's going to be that much of a... I don't think it's going to be that dreadful for her.
Yeah, I think you're right. So there is another generic I want to talk about, and it's really interesting. It's a rare. It's in a bizarre design space, and I think that's why I like it so much. But that's Fyendal's Fighting Spirit.
Oh, yeah.
This is so the red one specifically is a 3-cost 7 attack, 2 defense. When you attack or defend with Fyendal's Fighting Spirit, if you have less health than an opposing hero, gain 1 health.
Dude, I just want to say, whoever at LSS is designing like the cards and their effects that exist without being actually played, like bravo to you, cheers to you. I love any card effect that just does things passively. Right?
Absolutely.
Without having to pay for the effect, you just like Dredge in Magic as an example. Like, it's just an effect that exists that generates value. You didn't have to cast a spell and you didn't have to, activate an ability. You just took that card instead of drawing and you milled. And then if that advances your game plan, that's excellent. This is a little bit on a lower level, like on a smaller scale of Dredge, of course, because that's like an insane mechanic. But being able to block with this card. But the thing is, like, this, it would be, it really is not like for a generic that's a common, for a generic that's a rare with like great stats. It blocks for 2, which is what's expected of these kinds of cards. But this, if you're behind, will gain you actual life, and your opponent can't actually calculate and play around that life total number if they're trying to like whittle you down right there at the very end. Right? If you have this card, you're still surviving. That's why it's Fyendal's Fighting Spirit, and you can gain a little life as you're blocking with these cards. I don't know. I just like that, being able to get effects like Pack Call, right? I was super high on Pack Call from the Reinhardt Verse Story deck because you got an effect just for blocking.
Absolutely. And
that's like one of my favorite generic in this set is one of those cards as well. But it's more of a trigger. But it's we could talk about it after Fyendal's Fighting Spirit. But yeah, this one's insane. I really like it. It's also a Prism Phantasm Popper, or a Phantasm Popper in general.
Exactly. Well, here, walk us through it.
Yeah, definitely good stuff. But my favorite Majestic generic card in this, besides Erase Face, because that card's cool, is actually all that all you got.
Oh yes, yeah.
That card, that is a card. So it's a yellow pitch. 0 cost generic defense reaction that blocks for 3. Doesn't sound great, but it says while it is defending an attack with 2 or less power when the combat chain closes, draw a card.
Yeah.
Wow. What?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. I think that card's insane. A staple. Like, it is. I think it's a staple. Like, for most decks.
Absolutely. It's so weird too, because it just lets your opponent just does something harmless and then it just blows up in their face. I think that's what I love about it. Is it's such a great trap. Good.
It's like, well, I did nothing and you also got to replace the card.
I guess I'll swing with my Shimmer's Silver, put the counter on Shimmer's.
Yeah, boom, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's great.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Here's a shield. Oh, I have to use a card to block it. Aw. Reaction. Oh, I refill my hand. Cool.
And it's also cool because, like, I don't know, it's so great because you get to dig it out of your arsenal and draw a card, which is just ridiculous.
Oh man,
and then it's only when the chain closes too, because you also have opportunities.
Yeah, I
should
think
the chain close and reopen.
Yeah,
it's so
good. Yeah, it's
so good.
It's up there, man. That card is bonkers, man. I think that this card is going to find its way into most non-Guardian decks, and perhaps even Guardian decks, to be honest. Yeah. It's a yellow pitch too, so it's definitely something to consider for Prism.
Oh, absolutely. Which is crazy. Yeah. Especially in a world where so Prism has a very bad Ninja matchup, and I've got to imagine that's going to get worse with Fae. So or Phi, we'll figure that out in post. But the idea of being able to draw that extra card in Prism especially when you're running so many auras, to have 5 in hand and be able to block chip damage coming through so you can survive a little bit longer to expand your board state. I personally like it better than the hand fixing in Sink Below or in Fate Foreseen in exchange for that extra damage.
Oh, yeah. For sure,
Yeah,
for sure.
It's hot. It's real hot.
Super good. Yeah, this card's good. And even in a worst case scenario, you're blocking for 3, with minor downside. Like, there's like no downside actually. It's just a yellow defense reaction. It's on par.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like it says block for 2 for yellow.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so gross. I don't know. That card's really good. One of the things that worries me about this set, right, is there's just so many new design spaces being explored that something's got to break, right? Do you feel the same way?
Yes. There's a lot of weird stuff going on. I like it. Don't get me wrong. I really like it. It's interesting. There's Erased Face, which is like Sleep Dart on steroids. And then there's like Vipoxers, that all you got, Fog Down, and like all these weird card effects that care when you block and then you do a thing, you gain some life. Flex lets you pay 2 and gives it power. Brother in Arms lets you give it defense.
Red Flex is so good. It just turns into a popper if you want.
Absolutely, that one's really good. And Brother of Arms is like kind of like a rally the rear guard, but it blocks for 4, not 5.
Yeah,
but it cares more if you already have. It's better when you already have resource floating. So against like arcane hybrid decks, or in a deck with Crown.
Yeah, that's true.
Not that you'd play these like common generics in there, but it's a thing to consider.
It's weird because it's like a 1-cost attack react. Brothers in Arms is actually a really fascinating card just from a game design perspective, where it's like a 1-cost attack react in line with the 4-cost attack reacts, or the 0-cost 4-block attack reacts.
Yeah.
But you just pay 1 for it because you can also attack with that card, and it's just it's so cool.
And then the attack cost is 2.
Yes, which is interesting.
Yeah. Very interesting. This is why I keep looking. That's why I look at this card and I think Crown.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of like, it's like, because the 2 cost always makes me think of Crown. Paying 1 to leftover, play this card. Not that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying this is good in Guardian. It reminds me of Guardian play pattern. It's also interesting. We got Scar for Scar reprint. That's interested me the most.
Yes. Which is interesting. I guess they just saw in the limited environment they needed something to get momentum swings back, is what I would imagine. Because it is such a good limited momentum swing.
Absolutely. Those are the worst moments when you feel like you're definitely ahead and it's going to be hard for them to turn the tides around with just a card in arsenal and a single action point and 2 cards in hand. And then all of a sudden you're facing down a Scar for Scar and a weapon swing. You're like, oops, that's tough. Them's the breaks.
Absolutely. Going beyond generics, though.
Yeah, for sure. We could talk about generics all day because these are applicable everywhere.
Absolutely. Something I thought was very interesting is it's so weird, but Tome of Duplicity is a card that I feel is worth talking about because it is a strictly better Kano activation.
It does cost you an additional card.
It does cost you an additional card, but when has that mattered?
Well,
Kano?
A lot. But the fact that you get to search a little deeper before actually banishing one of those cards, right?
Yeah,
it's like it's like getting to banish the top 2 cards at the same rate, right? But only playing one of them.
I think this I don't really think this is a Kano card. I think this is Icelander's best card.
I think it's a Icelander imitation of Kano.
That's fair. I mean, being able to do this on your opponent's turn, choose to banish, throw it in at an instant. It's so good. Obviously, like I see exactly what you're saying with the imitation of Kano, and that's 100% correct. But it just, oh man, the Icelander control game plan is so there with this card. This card is so good. And it's so weird because like when I first saw it, I wasn't all that excited. And really, when I look at all these wizard cards, I'm not really all that excited to run any of them in Kano. I think that's what's really bizarre.
That's interesting. I feel like Kano's definitely going to play some of these cards to some degree.
Probably Singe. Singe probably sees some play.
Or Aether Dart as a like just strictly better zap.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It gives you more flexibility on targets.
Yeah.
Lets you target dragons and allies and bears and lions and what's the rest of that? I don't know. But yeah, no, definitely better zap. Singe seems playable as well.
Yeah, Singe definitely seems playable. I don't know. It's weird though. I feel like nothing immediately is like, oh, okay, like maybe now Kano is significantly more viable in CC. I didn't get that at all.
Interesting.
I don't know.
There's something I am thinking about. Okay, yeah, never mind. I was just thinking about the text on the arcane damage buffing effects like Wildfire and Flare.
Yeah.
I was just double checking that those said target opposing hero. And they do. They do.
I see.
I'm just double checking. Yeah. They're wise. They knew what they were doing. They definitely have worded things correctly.
They are wise.
They are wise. But yeah, no, I was just checking to see if you can do some like messed up stuff where like Dramai just randomly has like the worst matchup ever into like Kano because he gets all his free arcane damage on hits on her allies and then just randomly is like fireballs her out of nowhere and she can't defend it.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. So luckily that's not happening.
Yeah, that's not the case. Wizard finally got some upgraded robes.
Which is, the robe is very interesting, right? This is, the design space of this robe is very bizarre. The Illusion Constellat, as I will say. I know that's not how you say it, but it's fun.
Definitely how you say it. Just based on exactly how you pronounced it. It's definitely how you say it.
Exactly. It's weird though, right? Because it's not great in a lot of, like, I mean, I think you still run Spring Tunic 80-90% of the time, but my goodness, if you can trick somebody into dealing arcane damage to you, if this isn't just the card.
Yeah, it's kind of a Runeblade counter. This is the solution to Runeblade matchups, to be honest. I think any wizard just kind of takes a steamy dump on Viscerai and Briar now with this card.
Absolutely. The card's a little slow. It's so weird, right? They printed this at Legendary, and maybe this just speaks to like my lack of testing or playing Wizard in general. But I was like, this card like obviously does something really cool for Icelander.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very clearly pointing towards her equipment options. And it's funny that the Waning Moon, the token weapon for Icelander in this set, as opposed to Kraken Aethervein from the last one, it seems to be the stronger one.
Yes. The just straight damage coming from Waning Moon, I am a big fan of. It makes more sense to me to just go for the face.
Yeah, I mean, you can turn a Scalding Rain and a blue pitch into a bunch of damage. 8 damage, actually.
Yeah.
It's more than a blue Crucible and a Voltic Bolt ever could hope to do.
Yeah, I dig it. It's weird. I don't know. I think that's what's throwing me off so much is the design space for Wizard has been so specifically I don't know. It's been so specifically Icelander going into this set. So maybe they're trying to get away from that like solitaire game that happens with Kano as a play experience. It's hard to say.
I think that's what Icelander's supposed to be. Essentially, is that move away from that, and it's also kind of like as far as like Illuvian goes. It's also like I said earlier. These legendaries are very matchup specific, it seems. They're not going to replace the staples that we've seen for a long time.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to see that they're trying to expand the play space of like certain heroes or classes rather, which is good. I like that. You know, it's not like Kano really wants to play Consteas. I don't think he's ever going to really touch that. Because if anything, he can just use his robe that adds 3 resources and already has Arcane Barrier on it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's probably just better. On the turn you want to pop off, because reducing Crucible by like 2 is not helpful.
Yeah,
the cost
that's
of activation.
very fair.
It definitely more of a Kraken Aether Vein card or a Waning Moon card for sure.
Yeah.
And
I think that makes sense.
If anything,
it's actually more Wizard.
Yeah, Wizard's interesting. It's worth playing just to learn like the play patterns and the style and stuff. You know, it's definitely worth learning to play.
I have like I have all the Wizard stuff. Like I used to play it like in Kitchen Table just because it was goofy, and I liked to show people goofy decks. And I don't know, like I have all of it. So maybe this becomes the Wizard season for me. So we'll find out. We'll find out if I turn into a Wizard.
You know, it's something interesting. I've heard some like rumblings of like Spellfire Cloak, the generic.
Spellfire Cloak.
Yeah, I've heard some rumblings of this card just being better than Tunic.
What? Wizard. All right, here, hang on. I have my bulk in front of me. We need to look at this.
Well, I wouldn't say better, but it's like it's more. It's a great budget option, I would say. Spellfire Cloak is in Uprising, by the way.
That would explain why it's not in my bulk.
Yeah, when you said you were looking through your bulk, I'm like, whoa, did you go to
Vegas? What card was I thinking of?
I don't know.
There's the other red cloak that is a generic, but like you're supposed to draft it as a Wizard in Arcane Rising. It's not important. It's not important. We don't need to think about it right now.
But
this Spellfire Cloak will go on for years.
Spellfire Cloak says destroy it, gain 1 resource, activate this only on an opponent's turn. And Arcane Barrier 1. So it's instant gratification if you can get those setup items out quick. And you don't have to wait an extra turn for that resource. Just kind of go crack it on your opponent's turn. Let's get this shindig going, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like that a lot.
No time like the present. However, it does become a lot worse in your slower matchups, where you're going to be blocking a little bit more, using your Tunic resource for just getting some chip damage in. It's definitely not, and it doesn't block at all. It doesn't have Blade Break or anything. So it wouldn't say it's better than Tunic at all. But it is not a budget option that you should scoff at, because it's
no, not
real.
At all.
It's real.
Depending on how aggressive you are with Kano too, like maybe in Blitz this is better for Kano than Tunic. That's interesting.
That makes the most sense to me.
Yeah, I dig that. This card actually, the design space of this card is really interesting for just a generic. I don't want to say token equipment, but I guess common equipment's the word I'm looking for. It's I don't know. It's interesting because it does so much, like especially with the arcane barrier as well. And then I don't know, with Wizard, how many times? Okay, all right, yeah. Here's how I'll phrase this. With Wizard and with Kano, how many times are you going to get to turn 6? Because that's when Tunic becomes better than this.
It depends. I've certainly done it. I wouldn't be able to answer accurately. I have not been playing Wizard regularly, so I'm not really sure.
None of us have.
But I think honestly that most games do not go to 6 turns. But when you do go to 6 turns, it matters because you end up blocking with Tunic at some point to save your life total. You end up going to 1 at that point, you know. Which then, of course, again, when does that blocking or not blocking with it matter, or the not having or having the resource matter, right? So I don't know. It's like I said, it's more of a budget option. I don't know if I'd ever play it over Tunic and like CC. But in Blitz, it's not a terrible consideration.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, Blitz, you're never going to get turn 6. If you get to turn 6 as a Wizard in Blitz, there's no way you're still alive.
Yeah. Don't see that happening very often. And, moving down the line of equipment, Tiger Stripe Shuko is a little interesting for Ninja, if you've read this yet.
So I've read it and I couldn't tell you what it does.
It's a bit. It's not as simple as having an activated ability, but the second attack action card would cost 2 or less base power. With 2 or less base power, you play each turn has +1 power, and damage that would be dealt by this can't be prevented.
That's not bad.
Now, the first thing I thought of. Yeah, the first thing I thought of was actually like Steadfast or something like that, which didn't make sense to me. I'm like, no, that's not really it. But the second thing I thought of was like, wait a minute, Spectral Shields.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I don't like that one bit.
Yeah, and you're going to lose those shields too.
Yeah. My God.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So, and it has Blade Break for 2 defense. So,
yeah, that's not bad. Yeah, that's really good.
Gives Ninja some more equipment to block with.
Holy cow. Yeah, that's really good. And the art's really rad. Of all the new legendaries, I think it has the sickest art. Like the Illuvion Constelat is like one of the best. Like obviously that has really good legendary art, but oh man, that Tiger Stripe Shuko looks so dope.
Very much so.
That said, though, looking through these new ninja cards, do you feel like any of the other ninjas got a buff? Like, do you think we might see Kano a little bit stronger in CC now?
Well, if you're referring to Kano Ninja, then that
yeah, you know what I mean, Katsu.
Yes, I do think that Katsu is definitely seeing a very nice buff this set.
Yeah, I think Double Strike's an awesome card. I really like that card.
It's good. It's good.
I don't know how I feel about Rapid Reflex. I don't think that sees constructed play for Katsu.
No, I don't believe it's terribly great. Rapid Reflex definitely feels like a limited card. Katsu already kind of prefers to run like Ancestral Empowerment and Razor Reflex, unless you needed more red Razor Reflexes, I guess.
Yeah.
But just more reds.
Yeah, that is interesting.
What I really like is Take the Tempo.
Ah.
That one's really sweet.
Yeah.
And
It,
what I particularly like about it is how easy it is to give it go again with like Snapdragons or with a reflex, right? A razor reflex, that is, of course. Not rapid reflex, definitely worse. But it goes pretty well with that new Everfest card that they've been running.
which
Even
card is
bigger
that?
than that,
Oh yeah,
because you got to opt.
that is
When this
very
hits, you get to
true.
banish the top card of your deck, and if it's an attack action card, you may play it until the end of your next turn. So what I'm thinking here, the lines are: you play this, you play that card right after your damage hits, right, and you make that quicken token, and you opt, and you got attacked whatever you did have go again. Then you play take the tempo using the quicken token, so it's got go again, make it hit, and then you have that attack action you already set up on top opt. Then you get to banish it and play it until the end of your next turn. So you can play it immediately if you've got the go again, or you can wait until your next turn if you don't have the go again. Or you want to save it for an even wider turn, like an even crazier setup.
That's what I think is fascinating is the end of your next turn. That is not something you see a lot in Fab. It's usually you banish it and you play it now.
Yes.
So I like that design space. You see it a lot in Magic lately. That's been like a design space they're exploring quite a bit. And I like the fact that they're doing this for Ninja, especially with so many Ninja attacks seeming to now come out of the banished zone, just the way it works. So Herald of Judgment,
Break Tide, and I immediately thought of Herald of Judgment. So that's going to be interesting in the the mirror match. You may just want to throw the Herald of Judgment in there randomly, like to replace like a like just one of the the worst heralds. Not sure which one that would be, but it might be something worth considering. Double Strike makes me think a little bit about how the combat chain link works. Maybe it's just a misunderstanding, but if a card disappears from the chain link, does the chain link still exist?
Great question. The answer is yes. And the only reason I know this is because of the heralds. Which is, it's fascinating. Yeah, the chain link still exists. The card on it does not. But the rest of the cards on the chain link still exist.
That's good to know. See, little things like that. Luckily, I haven't made any gameplay errors yet, I don't think, regarding that issue. But yeah, that's pretty interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah, wow. Something else that I actually want to walk back a little bit is rapid reflex. It has some merit in that it blocks for 3.
That is interesting. Now that you say that, the 3 block in Ninja is incredibly rare.
Yes, which is why I'm reconsidering
that blocks for 3.
Correct. It's a reaction even. So it makes me think this actually is kind of playable.
Yeah, I don't think you put that art on an unplayable card. Like,
right?
Breaking some dude's nose,
Jeez. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I think we may have underestimated Razor Reflex a little bit just on purely text box and cost. Sometimes the subtlety of 3 and 2 blocking matters a lot. You can ask any Oldhim and Starvo player about that. But
they'll tell you about it.
Sometimes it actually matters a whole lot. Game deciding stuff, but right there. But yeah, I think there's definitely a world where Katsu wants to play 6 red Razor Reflexes.
Yeah, that is interesting. I'm gonna see some weird builds here. I don't know. So on the other heroes, I feel like the vast majority of their cards I can't really rate yet. I do see a lot of Oldhim players. It's interesting, right? Like, I feel like the current Lexi build isn't control-y enough to really benefit off of some of these ice cards. but maybe she becomes now more controlly with these ice cards. I've seen some really, for lack of a better word, toxic Oldhim builds with these new ice cards. I don't really play any ice heroes. I mean, I've like played Oldhim and Blitz a little bit. But I don't really play in this design space. I don't know, Matt, do you have any, like, I don't know, what do you think about these new ice cards?
As far as Oldhim goes, or the ice heroes in general?
Just all of the 9,000 ice heroes.
Wow. Well, I think that if you're talking about the higher rarity cards, like Channel the Bleak Expanse, for example, it says heroes can't reveal cards, search decks, or draw cards from effects. This does not seem like something that Oldhim wants to do very particularly, and then perhaps Alexi as well. Unless you just absolutely are trying to like hose another deck that wants to do this more than you. Like Oldhim's drawing cards from Crown. He's revealing cards to fuse. And he's searching his deck with, like, if you're playing Visage to search for channels, right? Channel like Frigids. Like, this is just not something you want to do. And if you're playing Lexi, you can't turn up your arsenal cards with this card out. And you can't access your second arsenal if you're playing New Horizon. So I think that this is just like kind of an Icelander card. And if very fringely sideboard playable, like one of those heroes that they just like desperately need something to stop a super strong deck that reveals, searches, or draws a lot of cards.
Yeah, that's kind of how I'm looking at it. Looking at the new Icelander appears to be very slow, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. And that's why cards like this seem to be so good, because they punish your opponent for setting up or for having a good turn. And then especially Icelander can just drop this on your opponent at instant speed. You know, this is like it's almost like Icelander's Arclight Sentinel in a weird way.
Yeah.
And I think it totally belongs in that design space. I will probably end up eating feathers on this, and then just getting Oldhim, just ruining my day.
No, not at all. I think you hit it right on the nail right now, because you made me think about the instant speed interaction with this card, and that's so devastating. And like incredibly, just it's so like it's incredible the amount of thought gone into like Icelander's play style with like these cards being able to be played at instant speed. Because just like this is like for Magic parallels, right? Drawing the parallels between this and Magic. It's like even Mind Sensor, Opposition Agent type stuff, like out of your arsenal randomly. Like they're just about to play say I go Sonata X's 1, right? That's usually what you're doing.
Yeah.
Icelander responds, channel the Bleak Expanse at instant speed. And you're like, what the actual, like you can't, you just hose the thing I just dumped my mana into for one mana. It's crazy.
It's got real bleak.
And and then on top of that, she uses her leftover 2 resources to hit you for 3 arcane with the Waning Moon.
Oh,
so yeah, have fun with that. I am not looking forward to Stacks.deck Icelander. Have fun. Don't take your turn. Do not pass go. Do not collect $100. Take 2 arcane damage. My turn. Okay.
It's so gross too, because obviously in order to play Channel the Bleak Expanse, you're going to need to have to pitch 1 card, but you only need to, like, you can set this up to save a single ice card in your hand, because that Channel Ice check doesn't even happen until the end of your next turn.
Yeah.
So it's just 2 bleak turns of heroes.
Or worse.
Yeah.
Or worse. It's an ice deck. It's all ice.
Yeah.
It's all ice. I mean, like, I don't really think
all the time.
Yes.
On Ice TV.
I think 80% of this deck at least is going to be ice cards.
It's also okay. So for those of you at home that don't know this, I have been playing a lot of Briar lately, and this card just ruins all of the fun things Briar does at once. You can't reveal anything to fuse with Briar. You can't draw cards, which is a huge part of Briar's game plan.
And doing
You
that
can't do any
instant
of that
speed
for 2
against her is
turns.
like cracked, dude. To say as the young kids would to say it, you know?
Yeah.
Hypothermia in response to like somebody about to play an attack with Mavri and Sky. You know? Or your lightning, your tokens trying to pop. You know, you're a quicken or your embodiment. You're like instant speed hypothermia. Oops.
Yeah, right.
Did I do that? Oops. And the one that we haven't seen actually, and we haven't talked about because it got spoiled in between episodes, is Insidious Chill. And this one is the Lexi card. Lexi wanted a card. This is the Lexi card.
All right, here. Let me bring this one up real quick to remind myself. All right, Insidious Chill, Ice Action, Aura, Blue, 3 red cost. It is 2 defense. All right, so Insidious Chill enters the arena with 3 frost counters on it. When it has no frost counters on it, destroy it. Whenever you ice fuse, remove a frost counter from Insidious Chill. If you do, target hero discards a card unless they pay RR. So this is basically a
amulet of ice.
A triple Frost Fang?
Yes. Yeah. Actually. This is incredibly like devastating, man. If Lexi jams one of these and she has like a 3 like chilling Ice Vein Blizzard Bolt turn, it's like over, man. It's so bad.
You know,
like I don't see Oldhim doing this that much, to be honest, but yeah, it's a bit rough. It could be, seems so bad, right? No, not like a bad card, but it seems so bad to play against. This reminds me of, if you've been playing Magic for any length of time like you and I have, you remember the Eldrazi winter. Yeah. Oh,
so
man.
Are we headed towards Ice Summer? Is this a thing?
I think so, man. Like, it's not. The thing is, it's so funny that that the winter has the connotation of like slowing down, hibernation, you know, things getting cold. And Eldrazi winter is anything but that. I mean, you're getting face slammed by freaking reality smashers, like turn 2, like turn 3, 2 5/5s with haste. You can't do anything unless you want to discard cards. This time we're talking about summer and we're like slowing the game down to a grindy halt.
It's so great.
It's funny. I like it. I like the dichotomy between the two. It works. Icelander summer, you know.
I hope it doesn't work.
They made sure it was going to work. There's a lot to be said about the rest of these ice cards, but a lot of it involves very painful things to talk about as Runeblade players. Frostbites and arcane damage. But and we've seen a lot of these already. A lot of these ice cards, as we got that little taste in the beginning. But Draconic cards, I believe you said it in the last episode. There's a bit of a pattern between all the Draconic cards that are out. The generic Draconic cards, that is, of course.
Yeah, that there is. They are all red. They are not yellow. They are not blue. They are only red.
Yeah, they only pitch for red, and you know, that might sound terrible, but Draconic heroes, they don't need pitch where they're going. Just burning flame in anger.
Burn, straight to the bottom of the power rankings as they are destroyed by frostbite tokens.
Frostbites, yeah.
I don't know.
Get toxic real quick. Those frostbites.
I hate to just like come out and say this, man. Like, these cards seem so unfun to play against. I just hope these decks suck. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, sometimes you just want to go fast and win games, but That's not going to be allowed. No fastness
Not
with
even
Icelander.
once.
But, sometimes you'll have a couple turns with no frostbites, hopefully. Or if you've got a thaw in your graveyard, when you start your
That is
turn,
true.
you can help fix some of those problems. And if you're having additional troubles with your resource costs, Flamescale Furnace is there for you as a Draconic
Flame
hero.
Scale Furnace is there for you.
And that one's a real doozy, if you ask me. I think this is definitely going to be the tunic for our two new Draconic heroes.
I'm still on the fence with this card, if I'm being honest.
Really?
I don't know. I don't know if it's the card. It just, so to me, right, it does include the card that you have pitched in and of itself, right? Which is great. But it's so weird. So, like, obviously, it costs a resource to use, and then you can gain that resource that you just pitched for it. So, obviously, you have to have at least one red card pitched in there, but you also would have had to have played a red card.
Yeah.
So, whatever amount you end up gaining. So, because this is it's complicated. But basically, this is always going to be activated for your arsenal or your last card in hand. And I mean, I guess since you get to use it once per turn, I don't know. I'm still on the fence with this card. It'll probably end up being significantly better than I think it is, but the mana generation seems awkward to me.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely may not seem intuitive for sure to begin with. I think Dromai may make the best use of it, but to be honest, it generates mana, right? It does net you mana, and when you block with it, it's not destroyed. And I think that's just one of the more important things. It'll block for 2, and it'll be mana advantageous during brief moments in the game, which is, I think, about as much as you can ask for from a Tunic anyways. And a Tunic, which in a pinch, if you have to block something so you don't lose your entire turn or you lose momentum, you're not stuck without your resource generating equipment, right? And it only blocks for 1. The Furnace will block for 2. It has Temper, and it'll stick around after it blocks and continue to generate that resource for you if you need it. I just don't.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think the value on it is obviously not as good as just one free resource. No conditions, nothing else stapled to it. Of course, it's not as good as that. But I think that defense value, Temper, makes up for that difference.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, the Temper value is, okay. I see where you're coming from. That makes sense to me.
And, I mean, maybe I'm a bit optimistic, and I'm not, I'm not like very, what's the word I'm looking for? Starry-eyed from all of these legendaries, right? Don't get me wrong. I'd see like a lot of them as being like, as far as the class legendaries we've seen so far, are very conditional, right?
Yeah.
But this one I feel is a staple. This is the chess piece for Draconic hero. I don't really feel like you can use another one. Unless you already have a Tunic and that's what you got.
I think this is always better than Tunic in Jermai.
Yes. And just, and I think in Fae as well. There's an argument to be made, though, for Fae that you could probably use Tunic. It might be better for the most part. But I don't think you would be bad at using Flamescale Furnace either. You'll be a little tankier, too, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I think that the Furnace doesn't make a total big difference when you're facing down Frostbites, but it could help. It's you're going to end up having to spend a bunch of cards anyways to play and break from some Frostbites. So whether you gain a lot of resources for pitching a card after pitching a bunch of other cards, I don't know how helpful that'll be, but it'll help a little bit for sure in the ice matchups.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I can, now that I think about it, like, obviously in Ninja, you're either going to be running Tunic or Vest of the First Fist, and I think this is better than either of those, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I definitely think this is better. I think Tunic is better in Prism. I mean, obviously, like, you wouldn't be able to run this, but theoretically, if you did have another Illusionist mana source, like, just to be able to play instants is what you want to do a lot of the time with Prism. So this is better. Like, this is a great option because you don't really have a lot of instants with your Mize build.
Yeah.
I don't know. That is interesting. Well, our legendary got spoiled. Our fabled legends, fables.
Well, there's one less legendary we didn't talk about, by the way.
Oh yeah,
there's not much
one that no one talked about.
Yeah, there's not much to talk about. Coronet Peak. It is an ice equipment, and has Blade Break, blocks for 2. Sounds good so far on paper. And then it has action, 3 cost. Target hero discards a card unless they pay 1.
Yeah.
Period.
This is an awkward card. It's an action without go again that forces your opponent to discard. It's really weird.
Well, I wouldn't say forces. If they have resource left open, then they're just going to pay for it.
That's true.
But then again, you wouldn't activate it. But, I don't know.
It's kind of neutral against.
I don't know what you would want to do.
Yeah, I don't know. Draconic Heroes, it's neutral, I think. I don't know. It's a weird legendary. Like, obviously they tested this and they were like, it needs to be legendary. Absolutely. It's way too powerful. But to me, it seems kind of clunky.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it actually needs to be legendary. I feel like it's just kind of like it's the role that it had to fill, not the role it deserved to fill. You know what I mean? Like, it probably deserved to fill a mythic role, but, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it easily could have been a mega.
It just doesn't seem all that strong, right? I feel like so many people have taken this stance on this card. I don't think that many people can be, like, missing something. You know what I mean? Like, I've heard all the conversations, like, about Blink and doing it more than once.
Okay.
That seems like a waste of resources, like a total waste. Like, you just spend 3 cards, all of which are 9 pitch. You spend 9 pitch, 3 cards to tell your opponent to pitch a single card.
I guess the question is if Icelander is going to be playing on your opponent's turn most of the time, that action point isn't that terrible, is it?
No, not necessarily. And right, that's the idea. I think for sure this will see some amount of play in Icelander, some amount. I just don't know how much better it is than just running the new generic or a skullcap, really. Like, I don't know. You spend your turn to deal 2 arcane damage to them with your staff instead of trying to do this. Right?
Yeah.
This is the equivalent of, like, making them pitch a card during your turn to stop the Cracker Nather Vein draw, right? And that doesn't seem like that great of a card either in most cases. So I don't really know.
Yeah,
I'm not big on it. It's very very medium.
I'm very wait and see on this card. I think I'm not willing to say that it's not, like, I think there could be something that I'm missing with it. I think there is a chance that I'm not seeing certain lines that just need to be played out once all the cards are released. So, I don't know. It's weird.
Certainly. But back to the Draconic Fabled that we were just about to dive into. This card is quite the looker, if I do say so myself.
Yeah. So as we've established, aside from, like, some commons that are class specific, basically this makes your Draconic cards free. You do have to pitch it for something. Let's say you pitch it for. It's just so weird, right? You pitch it for something right off the bat. You gain that one resource, and then from there, if you still have a card in your arsenal or the other two cards in your hand, everything else is essentially free from here on out, which is disgusting. It seems very what's the word I'm looking for? It seems necessary in a weird way.
Yeah. It's funny, there's a conversation to be had about Fableds and about their strengths and whether they ought to be a lower rarity so that their playability doesn't factor into their price. Their scarcity, I mean. And the price is, of course, like just dependent, right? But their scarcity is really what it is. If something ends up being like super playable, like library, right? It wouldn't help it if it was scarce, right?
Yeah,
like
I feel like
if
Eye of
it was
Ophidia is running into that problem.
Right. Well, I think that's more of a Winmore issue, right? Like, I think people are just getting used to having the Winmore effect, like there, right? Eye of Ophidia definitely feels like a Winmore effect, but it doesn't like totally change games. It doesn't totally change the landscape of a game, right? I don't think.
Yeah.
Right. It definitely helps some matchups and some turns, but it doesn't change an entire game. Library, if that hits the table turn one, that game is essentially over.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I like it. It almost can't be argued. Like, unless you're playing against Brute and he goes immediately pitches 2 yellows and destroys it, right? And then somehow he manages to find a win in the game, right? But I just think, there was actually a local team and some of our friends made a video discussing all the Fableds, Team Kitchen Fabled. Funny enough of the name. They did a YouTube video discussing Blood of Drakai and the rest of the Fabled lineup, and kind of tiered them in like. Did like a tier list, right? Where like the bottom essentially was like basically a cracked bauble. The next level was like playable. The next one was like, this is very good and gives a reasonable advantage and gives some kind of advantage in your deck. And then the top level was like, should be a legendary because it needs to be more accessible of how playable it is. And I think they rated that the Blood of Drakai was, if I'm not mistaken, I don't have the video in front of me, but I believe the Blood of Drakai was rated somewhere around the level of like, this is very powerful, but not so much powerful that it's like legendary tier, right?
Yeah.
It does feel like Blood of Drakai just is super like runs super smoothly in every Draconic deck, like Dromai or Fae. Like, it's just always going to be strong. But I think it's worse in Dromai because most of her stuff is just going to be activating the ally ability to attack. And it's not really going to reduce the costs of most of her cards, right? I mean, it does reduce the costs of her invocations, but not reducing the costs of her ally attacks is the big one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think for Faye is the one that he's the one I feel like is enabled the most by it. But I don't know. It is a good point to be made though. Like, should something that's so playable be so scarce? But that's yet to be seen. Like, Uprising is not even out yet, and once people start opening rainbow foils and cold foils left and right, like, rainbow foil Fables are supposedly supposed to be more easier to get than the cold foils this time.
Yeah. So you do make a good point in that there's going to be multiple levels of distribution for these Fables based on, I don't know, it's just the I've seen cold foils, I've seen rainbow foils. There could even theoretically be a what are we calling them now? There's a new word for it, a Marvel treatment for these.
Well, I doubt that, but
I mean, it could just be super ultra rare.
It could be where like nobody opens it in like a year, I mean, that would be insane, right?
Yeah.
Imagine a marveled Fable. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a thing. I mean, we might see it. You never know.
You know what? You're right. You never know. It may come to fruition one day. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it seems definitely like incredibly good. I feel like it's like Arknight Shard level, like,
That's
you know,
reasonable.
maybe a little bit better. But like, you know, if I owned one of these, I'd definitely be playing it in my Dromai or Fey deck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I had it, I'd play it for sure.
Yeah, I think, I mean, isn't that how most Fables are, right? If you have them, you play them.
Yeah,
Really,
I
the
mean,
only one I
except for
see any debate
Corsem
over
and,
is
like Corsem and like the generic ones, you know.
you never play Corsham.
Well, that could change.
It could change,
Could
if they
change.
errata it.
Yeah, I'm sure you saw that very lengthy conversation. But yeah, you know, I don't know. It's not bad. I think it's like third in the tiered of like the strength of all the Fableds.
Yeah, I'd agree with
it's
that.
pretty impressive, to be honest.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like a free extra card, right? If you end up pitching this to play another card, then you have a maximum of 3 cards in hand or 2 in one arsenal. So traditionally, you would have to pitch one of those to play the other one. So it ends up being 1 or 2 free cards, depending on how much you have to pitch for, which I guess isn't that bad considering there's only 1. So it's like drawing an extra card once on 1 turn. It's weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. It is weird. Hopefully, we'll get to see it in action this weekend at the pre-release on Saturday.
Oh yeah.
That I'm super excited about. And I think what we should do is play with those new heroes before we get into them. You know what I mean? And these cards.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'd love to do that, actually.
Yeah. So I think that is what we will do is we will hold back on Dromai, Faye, Fi. I really need to figure that one out. And then and the new Icelander until we have sat down and played with them. This has been a hell of a thorough episode here. Matt, do you have any final thoughts before you touch any of these cards in person? What do you think your general impression is going to be?
They reprinted Cracked Bauble.
Do you think? I wish they would do it with slightly different art for each set. That'd be kind of cool.
No, yeah, right. That would be really cool. Actually, that's actually a really cool idea. But no, the set looks great. I mean, even just the generics, like as far as like expanding the rest of the game, like they did a really good job of that. Like they really are switching up. They are really not testing the limits, but they're really pushing new card tech and new card design space into their already existing hero class space, while also, you know, investing some new card abilities and new card effects into the new heroes, Draconic and you know, Icelander talent and stuff. So it looks good, you know. I think the dragons are pretty cool. It's a nice touch for the nice variety of dragons. We didn't get to expand on much of those, but you know, for the most part, they are very similar to their majestic counterparts with varying costs and abilities. Definitely not as strong as they are, but there's quite a handful of them, about 12, I think, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, there are 12 dragons, but it's important to remember that they aren't dragons.
Yeah,
they are illusions of dragons made of ash.
Yes, true,
and these dragons aren't real.
Oh, they're not real.
I did see somebody complaining in the lore where they're like, what, I was supposed to believe that above Solana there was a dragon this whole time? It's like, no. It was just ash.
It was an illusion of the dragon. What if it's an illusion of the dragon that is actually there?
Whoa.
Or an illusion of an illusion.
It's an illusion of an illusion. in the House of Mirrors. So I will say with this set, I think I am going to do everything in my power to not force Jeremiah in my sealed pool.
Let me know how that one goes.
I've played too much Illusionist, and that's how I know I'm going to open like Ghostly Touch and 4 Marvel Dragons. That's just by declaring I'm not going to play it no matter what.
That's
Putting that
one
out
good way
into the
to.
world.
That's a good strategy to get those things.
Right? Absolutely. All right. So that does it for the Pitch Stack Hotel Number episode 14, real episode 13. But don't let them know we said that.
So episode 13 then, right?
It is, but we can't let them know that in the hotel industry. I don't know why. Why do they stick to this? Elevators are weird. It's late. Yeah. So right on. I guess we'll see y'all next week.
See ya.